Headlines about Greenland flood your newsfeed. Melting ice, mineral riches worth trillions, superpowers circling. Why hasn't this massive island packed with resources just declared independence and cashed in? Today I'll explain how Greenland's relationship with Denmark actually works like you're 5 years old. By the end, you'll understand whether Greenland is trapped in colonial dependency or facing economic reality. Greenland is the world's largest island that isn't a continent. Over 800,000 square miles of rock and ice. It has 56,000 people, mostly Inuit Greenlanders, whose ancestors arrived around 2500 BC. Denmark colonized Greenland in the 1700s, and that relationship evolved through some interesting gymnastics. In 1953, Greenland stopped being a colony on paper and became part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Then in 1979, Greenland got home rule, and in 2009, they leveled up to self-government. That sounds impressive until you read the fine print. Here's where it gets interesting. Greenland now runs most of its own affairs. Greenland controls education, healthcare, infrastructure, and most domestic policy. Denmark handles foreign affairs, defense, currency, and international business dealings. It's like your parents saying you control your room, decorate however you want, have friends over. But they still pay the mortgage, control the Wi-Fi password, and anyone who wants to date you goes through them first. Those training wheels cost about $650 million per year to operate. Greenland's entire economy only generates around $3 billion annually, making that support extremely significant proportionally. Denmark sends Greenland roughly $600 million every year as a block grant. That's about $11,000 per person, which is actually substantial support. That money pays for hospitals, schools, infrastructure, and keeps the lights on. Everything costs more in Greenland because it must be shipped or flown in. A gallon of milk costs what you'd pay for a nice dinner elsewhere. Now let's talk about those resources everyone keeps mentioning. The island has rare earth minerals critical for smartphones, electric cars, and military tech. Stuff like neodymium and dysprosium that sound like rejected Pokemon names but are worth their weight in gold. There's also zinc, lead, gold, diamonds, uranium, and possibly massive oil reserves offshore. Some estimates put Greenland's total mineral wealth at over $1 trillion, maybe several trillion. Sounds like independence should be easy, right? Just sell the resources. Dig it up, sell it, tell Denmark thanks for the memories. Except, it's like discovering your backyard has a diamond mine underneath it. Amazing news, until you realize extracting those diamonds requires $500 million in equipment. You need specialized engineers you don't have, and environmental permits that take a decade. You need infrastructure that doesn't exist because your nearest port can't handle the necessary ships. And there are no roads connecting anything to anywhere. Here's what nobody tells you about resource wealth. It's not cash in your couch cushions. Greenland's minerals are trapped under rock and ice in one of Earth's most remote, harsh environments. Building a mine requires roads, ports, power generation, housing for workers, and year-round supply chains. Half the year involves darkness and blizzards that would make a polar bear reconsider its life choices. Companies have tried. Multiple mining projects started with big promises and bigger price tags. Then they quietly folded when the math didn't work. The Kvanefjeld rare earth project looked promising until environmental concerns and political pushback killed it. Even when projects move forward, Greenland must negotiate with multinational corporations. These companies have lawyers, lobbyists, and leverage that a government of 56,000 people can't match alone. The power imbalance in these negotiations is genuinely staggering and shapes every deal. This matters because the standard independence playbook assumes you can monetize resources quickly. You need to replace whatever financial support you're losing fast enough to keep things running. Scotland has oil revenue, tourism, universities, and established industries. Independence there is economically risky, but mathematically possible. Greenland would go from $600 million in guaranteed annual support to maybe, possibly earning royalties eventually. Those mining projects might launch in 10 years if everything goes perfectly. That's only if global commodity prices happen to cooperate, and only if environmental studies check out favorably, and only if the necessary infrastructure actually gets built, and only if foreign investors don't suddenly get spooked. It's like quitting your stable job to start a YouTube channel. Could work great in 5 years, but month 1, you're eating ramen and questioning everything. Except in Greenland's case, month 1 means hospitals lose funding and the power grid starts failing. But here's where Denmark's role gets suspicious to some people. Any major economic agreement Greenland wants, mining contracts, fishing deals, trade arrangements, goes through Denmark's foreign affairs system. That's because Greenland isn't sovereign under international law. Denmark doesn't veto everything or micromanage every decision. Greenland has substantial negotiating power and makes its own calls, most of the time. But the final signature on international treaties? That's actually Denmark putting pen to paper on Greenland's behalf. When the EU wants to regulate something or another country wants to invest, they deal with the Kingdom of Denmark. It's like being 19 and legally an adult, but still on your parents' phone plan and car insurance. You're technically independent, except when it really matters. And the EU adds another layer of complexity to everything. Greenland left the European Economic Community back in 1982. EU fishing quotas were destroying their primary industry, and Greenlanders said, "This isn't working." But Denmark is still in the EU, so Greenland has weird associated status. Some EU rules apply to Greenland, and others don't at all. When Greenland wants to export minerals to China or negotiate with the United States, EU regulations suddenly matter. Tariffs, standards, and strategic resource rules become relevant, even though Greenland left that club decades ago. Some argue this is deliberate, that Denmark structures the relationship to keep Greenland dependent. The block grant becomes hush money to prevent independence while Denmark maintains strategic control. There's truth to the strategic value angle, no question about it. Greenland hosts a U.S. military base at Thule that's critical for missile defense and Arctic surveillance. Control over Arctic shipping lanes and resources is becoming serious geopolitics. Denmark having authority over Greenland means Denmark has leverage in those conversations. Giving that up would cost Copenhagen significant international standing and strategic importance. But here's the genuinely complicated part. Many Greenlanders aren't sure independence is worth it either, at least not yet. Polls show 60 to 75% support eventual independence in theory. But that number drops substantially when you ask about independence right now, today, if it means losing Danish funding. It's like how everyone wants to eat healthier, but the drive-through line stays packed. Wanting something in theory and handling consequences in practice are different conversations. Greenland's government wants independence. They've been building toward it for decades. But they know jumping before the economy can sustain itself would be catastrophic. Real people need hospitals and schools and heating systems that function at -40 degrees. The real trap isn't Denmark holding Greenland hostage with legal tricks. It's that building a functional, independent economy in the Arctic might take decades. During that runway, you need money from somewhere, somehow. Denmark provides that money, which creates dependency, which makes independence risky. That makes continued Danish involvement necessary, which perpetuates dependency. It's a loop that isn't necessarily malicious, but definitely benefits the status quo. Every year, Greenland's young people leave for education and opportunities in Denmark. The islands can't offer the same economic prospects or career paths. That shrinks the population and makes independence even harder. You can't run a country when your entire tax base fits inside a mid-sized college football stadium, especially when half of them are moving to Copenhagen for dental school. So here's where we are right now with Greenland's situation. Greenland has resources worth trillions locked under ice. Accessing them would cost billions using infrastructure that doesn't exist yet. Denmark provides $600 million annually that keeps everything running, but creates dependency. That makes independence economically terrifying in the short term. The sovereignty arrangement gives Greenland autonomy over domestic life, but keeps Denmark controlling foreign affairs. That matters when negotiating mining contracts with multinational corporations or trade deals with superpowers. Public opinion supports independence eventually, but not necessarily right now when the math is this scary. The island's mineral wealth is real, but extraction is insanely expensive and slow. Independence means replacing guaranteed funding with uncertain resource revenue. That revenue might materialize in a decade if everything goes right. To recap, Greenland controls domestic policy, but Denmark handles foreign affairs and writes a massive check. The sovereignty structure and EU regulations create complexity, benefiting Denmark's strategic interests. Meanwhile, Greenlanders debate whether the leap is worth the risk. This isn't straightforward colonial theft. It's more complex than that. It's a genuinely complicated economic dependency loop that might be hard to escape even with good intentions. Is Greenland stuck in a system designed to prevent independence? Or are they dealing with the brutal math of Arctic nation building? And if you were Greenlandic, Would you vote for independence today, knowing your hospital funding depends on the answer?